Mm. Okay. Oh, hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Laurie, and so I've been meditating for a long time, and I came across Mickey Singer's book. My sister actually gave me one of his other books, The Surrender Experiment, and it just filled in so many pieces. And since I've been practicing, I guess I've been practicing with it almost 4 years now. It's really helped me to just to have more, to be more relaxed and have less reactivity and more joy. It's quite amazing, actually. And I've been down to Florida to Mickey Singer's place because I just had to meet this guy, and uh, he's definitely the real deal. And it really helped me to spend time in his community in terms of learning this practice. Because even though he doesn't teach anybody one-on-one, it's very helpful to to practice and have people to guide you in your practice. So I wonder who here has read The Untethered Soul? Anyone? Yeah, a few people. Great. And who here has a mindfulness or a meditation practice? Anybody? Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think to begin, probably the best thing is just if I would ask if you don't mind introducing yourself. So just your name and just what you're looking to get from tonight. Why you're here. That'll just help me to make sure I cover the things you wanted that are covered to be covered. Okay. So you can just pop right in if you like. You can just unmute your mic, or I guess by now most people know how to use Zoom pretty well. But if you want, you can raise your hand and I'll call you. But throughout the night, if you want to jump in, please go ahead and jump in. Zoom tends to, compared to in person, like people are, it takes longer for people to kind of jump in. So please just go ahead and do that if you like, or you can raise your hand. So who'd like to introduce themselves first? So just your name and what you're looking to get out of tonight.
Okay, I'll go. My name is Teresa, and I'm going to be taking the class actually for a third time. I think I'm turning into a Laurie groupie, but I just I started with I'm just going through something very stressful in my life, and it's just really helping me a lot. So and more to like I got into it for stress, but just what Laurie talks about, like being more happy, finding more joy. I kind of feel like that's happening, but it's a bit of a learning curve and new habits and practices. And so by taking this course again, hoping to instill that. So
Great, thanks, Teresa.
I'll go. Hi everyone. My name's Stacy, and I guess I'm looking to untether my soul. Actually, and what I'm looking for, I guess, is changing all the time, because right now I'm driving our brand new camper across the country by myself to get it home. And last night the heater went out. So right now I have Wi-Fi because I'm in a hotel. So, so yeah, that's talk about, kind of learning to go with a roller coaster. I'm really looking to find joy in whatever's already there, sort of the classic mindfulness thing, not needing joy to be something that has to have a particular context and all that, and just really learning to not be worrying about the future all the time. That's a big thing for me. I'm constantly trying to plan, so I want to just find the joy in what's already there.
Great, thanks, Stacy. Just jump right in, whoever would like to?
I'm Reva. I'm in a small town. I moved east of Toronto almost 5 years ago, and I can walk to the lake and look at ducks and geese as long as it's not too freezing cold out. So I was just curious because I go back to hippie times and meditation and gurus and that sort of thing way back then. And have had a career, but now I'm mostly volunteering and writing. So it's I think I need a little more during this time period with COVID. It's hard to stay in touch with people when you can't see anybody. So I'm just curious about what this time together will bring.
Great, thank you, Reva.
I'll go. I'm Monica. Can you guys hear me okay on this? Okay. I'm kind of here because Laurie suggested it after the MBSR course that he was scheduled to teach didn't go, and looking into it, it seemed kind of like a better fit even. So it's exciting for me to hear the other reasons, like the reasons that you all have for coming too, because it's resonating really strongly. So, and I'm already signed up for the course. So flying a little blind here, but that's okay.
Thanks, Monica.
I can go. My sound is cutting in and out, so it's not perfect yet. But my name is Mark, and I'm recently joined a meditation group in Roncesvalles. And saw this announcement through that group, and really was just interested in finding out more. So that's why I'm here. I've practiced meditation of various kinds for many years, and so I continue to be curious.
Great, thanks, Mark.
I'm Tina. I signed up for the course as well already. I guess have been on about almost a 10-year journey now of trying to figure out who I am. And this book came across my path about a month and a half to 2 months ago, and it was very, very, very intriguing. And I wanted to find out more. I've dabbled a little bit in meditation. It's not something I practice consistently, but when I did, I certainly could feel the difference. And just with reading the book now and trying to put this into practice, when I do, and when I'm very, aware of doing it, I can certainly feel an immediate difference. So again, just I want to learn more and be able to make this everyday thing.
Thanks, Tina.
Maybe I'll jump in. My name's Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey.
Jerry and I grew up
you.
together, by the way. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, been quite a while. I know very little about meditation, although I use it nominally or more than nominally. I use it myself for short periods, 10 minutes or so at a time. But I want to know more about it, and I've got a very busy life, and I think that integrating a lot of these principles and a lot of these techniques cannot but be good.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Elsa.
Okay.
I'm a beginner I know a little bit about meditation. I took Lori's course at the Jewish Community Center before COVID, and very much enjoyed that. And so this is kind of my way of remembering a little bit about what that was like. I haven't signed up for the course. I'm curious about our workshop today. I have the book that's been recommended by many people over the last couple years, and I still haven't opened it. But I pulled it out today. I found it. And yeah, I'm glad to be here with you guys. So thank you. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Elsa. And Sadie, it looked like you wanted to. Yeah, great.
Lori, you and Jerry could be brothers, I think. I think there's a similarity there because you're sitting on the screen on top of each other, so I can see a direct. But anyway, that's not why I'm here. I'm a beginner to meditation. I love my life, but I also am aware all the time that there's that I want to find ways to keep it that way, and to I'm open to anything and everything that's new, and this kind of workshop will be new for me. I looked through bits and pieces of the book a while ago. I'd say about 8 years ago, and some things pop out at me, but I only read bits and pieces. So I'm kind of like Elsa. I'm just going to see how this goes, and I'm also open to looking for new community, new faces, and support. And that's about it.
Thanks, Sadie.
And I'm Marina, and I have been neglecting meditation over the past 3 years. The group I had been going to had ended, and I had some things in my life that occupied me, and I only came back to it the end of last year. And I just feel the difference to just, and I think doing a course helps me in a sense that whatever has been discussed that week sort of stays with me in the next week. It's as if you slowly mull it over. And so I'm sort of trying to get back to meditation and teaching. So
Great. Thanks, Maria.
Could I just ask where everyone is, like in the country or the next country? I'm just curious where people are.
I'm in Ancaster, about an hour south of Toronto.
Yeah. How many people in Toronto, or the GTA, shall we say? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Jerry's in Ottawa.
I didn't talk yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I could go ahead, but I'm.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I was being shy. I'm a bit shy, I guess. But I just moved to Collingwood from Toronto at Christmas, and a friend of mine has taken a course. Another friend of mine leads some meditations affiliated, I think, with this. Possibly, I could be wrong, but I have never done it before in my life. And, it was just kind of recommended to me. I've made this change in my, we've taken ourselves out of the city into a smaller community, and we're just trying to have a different lifestyle and a different approach. I run my own business, and I've lost something inside. So I feel like I'm taking like a rebirth approach to this change, and all of the things that were described in the course, like when it was all described to me, I was like, yes, 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 yes. So, I'm just here for more knowledge, more information, and I just believe that starting this type of practice for myself would be a good thing. So yeah. that's me.
Great, thanks, Julie. Is there anyone who hasn't gone? Oh,
My name is Guylaine. I'm in Toronto, and I have done the MBSR program maybe 10, 11 years ago. I consider myself as a beginner. I think I will be a beginner until the end of my life. And I have a good friend who was in the last course, and she was very, very happy with the course. So yeah.
hmm.
It's always good to try to find new tools to go back to the practice, and for me it's always a challenge to stay in the present. Very good with the past and with the future, and a little bit less good with the present. So that's my goal.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, it is challenging to stay in the present moment for me too. Okay, so thank you, everyone. So I should say that this course, it definitely has a meditation component, and we're going to meditate every class for about 15 minutes. The classes are 2 hours long, so it's just a small part of the class, and we'll have, I have recorded guided meditations that you can use, and certainly I encourage you to meditate every day if you can. But this is not essentially a meditation course. So we do some meditation, but Mickey's method, if you will, the meditation helps to be aware, which is kind of necessary. But the course is mainly practicing in your life, right? Taking the practice and bringing it to your life. So I'll talk some more about that, of course, later on. But I'd like to now take some time to just do a brief practice, about a 10 or 15 minute practice. So, so I would ask you to find a nice, comfortable position. Ideally one where you can be relaxed and yet alert. Usually what that means is, rather than kind of lying down or leaning back in the couch or whatever, that you're sitting up, upright, so that you can upright in a position where you don't have to use a lot of energy to maintain that position, but where you have to use a little just to keep you alert. Okay. And the elbows should be close to the body, so your shoulders are not pulling at you. But as I said, just where you can be relaxed and yet alert. And you can have the eyes closed if you're comfortable with that. If not, you can have your eyes open just a little bit in a receptive gaze. So you're not really looking at anything, you're just letting things come in. And then just checking that you're not leaning back or forward. You might want to move a little forward, move a little back, and come to rest where you're not leaning back or forward. And then stretching up, allowing the shoulder blades to rest on your back body. And then allowing the body to soften, hang off the spine. And we'll start this with one sound of the bell. So first I'll wake the bell, and then I'll invite the bell. And now allowing the attention to sink deeply into the body and focusing on sensation in the body. So just noticing what's there, allowing whatever's there to be there. There may be pleasant sensation or unpleasant sensation, neutral sensation. There may be areas where there's no sensation. Whatever's there is just fine. We're not trying to change anything. We're just recognizing what's there and allowing ourselves to experience it, letting it all the way in. So if you're noticing resistance, And just doing your best to relax and drop the resistance. Allowing yourself to experience sensations in the body. And now becoming aware of the sensations of breathing. So becoming aware of when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And not trying to control the breath, just allowing the body to breathe itself. It doesn't matter if the breath is long or short, rhythmic or not. Whatever's going on is just fine. In fact, it's perfect. You don't need to be anything other than who you are right now. Just bringing kindness and curiosity to this moment. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. Just noticing the sensations of breathing. And allowing yourself to experience whatever's there. And while you're focused on the sensations of breathing, other things may be going on in the background. There may be thoughts or sounds. There may be smells or other bodily sensations. Just doing your best to stay focused on the sensations of breathing. It's not a problem for there to be thoughts or whatever else there is in the background. You don't need to stop them. And do your best to not be interested in them. You want to be interested in this, just the sensations of breathing. And almost certainly at some point your attention will get distracted and perhaps pulled into thinking or somewhere else other than the body breathing. And that's no problem at all. In fact, when you notice that your attention has wandered, you've just gone from forgetfulness to awareness. So that's a moment to celebrate. I know my attention has wandered. Yay, I know. And at that point, gently bring the attention back to the body breathing. Every time you're bringing the attention back, you strengthen your mindfulness muscles. Good. And continuing to do your best to, whenever you notice resistance, bracing in the body or wanting things to be different than they are, and allowing yourself to relax and drop the resistance to the best of your ability. You may not be able to drop it, it doesn't matter. but just invite it to drop, invite the body to relax. Invite yourself to let it in, even if there's unpleasant sensations, let them in. Let yourself experience whatever's there. And now I'll give you a question to ask yourself, and don't try and answer it at all, don't, especially not intellectually. We just ask the question and then we just notice whatever happens. We don't try and make anything happen. We don't think about it. We just ask the question. So the first question is, what is this experience? I'm just asking the question, what is this experience? Good, and now asking, what is having this experience? What is having this experience? Good. And now, the last question, who notices this experience? Who notices? And letting go of the questions, continuing to notice the body breathing, riding the waves of the breath. And with the sound of the bell, we'll bring an end to this meditation. So, doing whatever you need to do to bring kindness to the body now. So if you want to stretch or massage or move, feel free to do that. You're always in charge of your own practice and doing whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. You can trust yourself to take good care of yourself. So, I would invite those who are able to share their video to do so if you like. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But it's always nice to see everyone's face, and even though we're not meeting in person, to have a sense of connection. Did anyone have anything they wanted to share about that experience? Any questions or comments? No. Okay. So we can get right into it then. So in that meditation, we did a couple of things. We noticed, we obviously we noticed our body and our breath, and we also noticed resistance to the experience, and we did our best to drop the resistance. And we also, when we asked the questions, the idea is that that's pointing us to what Mickey refers to as our seat of awareness. In other words, just knowing that you're the one who's aware, right? So when you ask who notices, it's, there's a sense that I'm the one who's aware. I'm aware of what I see. I'm aware of what I hear. I'm aware of my thoughts, I'm aware of my emotions. And the seat of awareness means that you're aware that you're aware, right? So it's just that sense of knowing, right? And that's, I'll talk about that more as we go through this. So to start with, so when I talk about Mickey, I'm referring to Michael Singer. He calls himself Mickey, so I'm used to calling him Mickey. And he refers to himself as Mickey in his books. He talks about this idea that the way most of us go through life is that we notice that when this happens outside, we're happy. And when this happens outside, we're not happy, right? So we have these experiences where something happens and we're happy, something happens and we're not happy. And then what we do is that sort of becomes part of our psyche, and we develop this set of preferences. And we think that our happiness comes from what's going on outside. If this happens outside, I'll be happy. If this other thing happens outside, I won't be happy, right? And he calls this, sometimes he refers to this as a win-lose situation. And whether we win or whether we lose is determined by what's going on outside. And he suggests that an alternative to make it a win-win, to make life a win-win game, is basically to like everything, right? Now, he's not saying that you would like pain or you would like, suffering or anything like that. But what he's saying is that much of our time is spent, someone said something and it bothers you, right? Or someone doesn't say something and it bothers you. Well, they should have asked me if I was okay when they saw me, or they should have done this. Or it's raining and you don't like the rain. Or, there's also, we're constantly being presented with whatever's going on outside and deciding whether we like it or not, right? And it often doesn't feel like a decision, but in fact, we have some control over whether we like something or not, right? I used to be a very terrible fussy eater. And, when I look back on it, it's like, at some point I decided I want to eat more. I don't want to always be the fussy eater. And I started trying things and started trying to like things. And I was quite successful, right? Because we have control over, at least for the most part, we have control over what we like and what we don't like. And when you like something, you're happy, right? When you don't like something, you're unhappy. So Mickey's saying, if you want to be happy, learn to like more of what life is giving you. Ideally, like everything, right? So you have somebody who's driving really slowly in front of you, and that's bothering you, right? Can you learn to enjoy that moment, basically, right? Because you know, in most cases, it is a choice, right? If we have the capacity, right? If we have the awareness, we can actually choose not to close our hearts to whatever's going on, right? And we can notice when our heart's closing and when our heart's opening, right? And, you know, why would you ever want to close, right? Like naturally we do this to defend ourselves against, you know, because our psyche tells us we need to defend ourselves, right? Based on our past experience. But if instead we choose to stay open, right? And I'm talking on the inside, right? If instead we choose to keep our heart open, and this could be in a, you know, all sorts of situations. It could be, you know, it could be a sad situation. So can you open your heart to that and fully experience the sadness, right? You know, you go to a terribly sad play, you go to Romeo and Juliet, and it's the best, it's the actors are phenomenal. And you go and you cry your eyes out. And afterwards, somebody says, how was the play? And you say, it was fantastic, you gotta go see it, right? Because when you actually open yourself to these things, it's a, you know, it's a rich experience, right? It's a rich experience. And when you close yourself, it's an unpleasant experience. So why would you ever choose to close yourself, right? So this is one of the techniques Mickey teaches, is notice when your heart is closing and ask yourself, is this worth closing? Because it's never worth closing, right? If you don't close your heart, then you don't store it. And I'll talk about that a little later. But when you don't close your heart, it doesn't mean that you're better able to deal with the situation from this place of balance and an open heart than from a place of anger or frustration or fear or loneliness or whatever it may be, right? So the you know, the admonition is to stay open. The other aspect of what he teaches is that, and this is like, I come from a Buddhist mindfulness practice, and really, you know, and I've studied various spiritual traditions, and they all say the same thing, which is our true nature is joy, it's peace, it's love, it's enthusiasm. And when I say true nature, I mean what's deep underneath, right? And so the fact that we are not experiencing that all the time, many of us think that we're not experiencing that all the time because I need this to happen outside. I need something exciting, something special, something interesting in order for me to feel that way. But that's not true. Actually, it gets covered up by our anger, our frustration, our loneliness, our fear, whatever it might be. It gets covered up, but it's still there. You know, it's like the sun behind the clouds. And so what that suggests is you don't have to go chasing happiness outside yourself. If you can just allow the what's covering it to dissipate, then you will find the joy, you will find the love, you will find the peace. It's there, right? But for most of us, our experience is not that we're feeling that even most of the time. And that's because every time we resist life, every time there's something that we find unpleasant, and we try not to, we defend against it, we try not to feel it because it's unpleasant, right? And this is what our, you know, basically our reptile brain naturally does, right? Seek pleasure, avoid pain. But when you avoid something that's happening in the present moment, right? Somebody says something, it bothers you, and then you know, it's like you think about it and it doesn't, you're trying to just to make yourself comfortable with your thoughts, and you're not able to, and you're feeling this discomfort and you don't want to feel this discomfort, and so you suppress it, right? You defend against it, and then what happens is you store that energy, right? You store it in your heart and mind, and it becomes an internal knot, right? And it becomes part of your psyche, and it's there to get triggered later. And you store, it's sort of, there's this metaphor Mickey uses. It's like every time there was something that really stunk, you took a sample of it and put it in a test tube and brought it home and put it in this room, right? And you do this for years, bringing the stinkiest things you can find into this room. And then you go into the room and you go, my God, it smells terrible in here, right? Well, it's like, yeah, because you've been storing all this, nasty stuff in there. And that's what you've been doing, like, that's what you've been storing inside you and your psyche, right? By resisting, by not wanting to experience this stuff. And this stuff actually wants to get out. Like it takes energy to keep it in, right? It wants to get out. That's why solitary, they say solitary confinement is really difficult, because what happens is you have nothing to distract yourself from this stuff that's trying to come up, right? And that's why we distract ourselves constantly, right? We want to have the TV on, we want to have something on in the background, we want to have something to do. If we get bored, we start to get uncomfortable because this stuff is in there and it wants to get out. And so the admonition is let it out. Let it out. It's not pleasant to let it out, but then it's gone. And when it's gone, then you feel this natural joy, this natural peace, love, enthusiasm, energy, because it's not blocked by all these things that we've been storing, right? I'll just pause there. Anybody not buying this? Anybody have any questions, or anybody know, any comments?
I have a question, Lori.
Yeah, say it.
Just toward the end, you said, let it out. And when you're letting it out, it's not going to be comfortable. But once it's released, then you're back to your natural state. So I assume that, or I'm guessing here, because I know what those uncomfortable feelings are like. So to relax and let it out, like how long typically does that stay for?
There's no fixed time frame. No. There might be deep stuff that, every time you relax and allow yourself to experience it, it transforms a little bit, but it could take a long time. Other things may just go poof, right? So, and really the start of it is not to create new ones, right? And we do naturally, like this stuff naturally does release. Sometimes it releases through our dreams. Sometimes, sometimes you do let it out. But so it's easier to release something new, like not to store something new, to let yourself experience it, and then it's gone and it never gets stored, right? Because we're constantly resisting life and storing new stuff, right? So that's the, and the practice is just when we notice that we're disturbed, right? When we notice that there's some sort of inner disturbance, to and first of all, when we notice that we're disturbed, we focus on what's outside. It's like somebody says something to us that bothers us, and the first place we look and what we're thinking about is, why did they say that, and what should I do about it, right? And the thoughts draw us in, right? And we don't pay attention to what's going on inside. So the first thing to notice is there's this disturbance going on, and my mind is getting drawn into this disturbance. My attention is getting drawn into this, and I'm just, it's like there's a voice in your head, right? And so, and we naturally believe the voice in our head because we think it's us, right? We think the voice in our head is us, the voice that says, Why did they do that? They had no right to say that. What should I do? Maybe I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call that one, whatever. So, to notice that, oh, this is just the voice in my head. I don't have to listen to it, right? And instead to just relax. Normally when that's going on, there's something going on in the body, like emotions in the body, and just allow yourself to feel them, because you'll generally notice a breaking in the body, trying to not feel this, right? So relax, like physically relax, and relax as in like, you don't need to fix this problem right now. Just relax, just let it in, relax, and let go of the pull of the thoughts. In other words, don't get drawn into your attention being focused on fixing this outer problem, but rather, let go of the rope that's pulling you, right? Like the people that are pulling you, it's like the pull can be really strong, but no matter how strong it is, if you let go of the rope, it's gone, right? For the moment, like it often comes back, but you can so we relax. He teaches relax, release the pull of the rope, and then lean back into the seat of awareness. So notice that you're the one who's aware of these thoughts. You're the one who's aware of this disturbance. You're the one who's aware of the emotions, the bodily sensations, right? Because when you're aware of this, then you can disidentify with the thoughts, right? You can say, oh yeah, I'm the one who's noticing them. I'm not the thoughts. I'm the one who's noticing them. I'm not the emotion. I'm the one who's noticing the emotion, right? And this is kind of a solid place where we can stay centered and be able to just observe what's going on without getting pulled into it, without getting our attention drawn into it. And it's kind of like when you're at a movie theater, you're watching a movie, and sometimes the movie is so interesting that you forget you're in the theater. You cease to be aware that you're in a theater, and all you're aware of is the movie, right? And then at some point you notice, oh, I'm in a theater. I'm in a theater, right? So when you notice that you're in the theater, that's the seat of awareness, right? Because we can get drawn into our thoughts and we just are totally preoccupied with the thoughts. We're not aware that there's any other choice. We're not aware that these thoughts are not necessarily the truth. We're not aware that we have a choice other than to fix this problem that the voice in our head is telling us we need to fix, right? So we relax, we release, and we lean back into the seat of awareness.
There's something interesting about that, the movie theater analogy, and that, like, I immediately realized, well, that's also an enjoyable experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like being carried away with the movie. And I think maybe that's like something that happens with our thoughts as well, that they can be enjoyable to indulge in. Or maybe they seem that way. So that's maybe like a block for me. I feel like certainly like one, I think all kinds of thoughts probably do seem sort of enjoyable for me. Like one category of thought, like when I was sitting before, is just like thought about work. And I like my work, so I kind of like doing that, even though I realize it's sort of also a waste of time, because I'm not working then. I'm not there. I'm not sitting. I'm thinking about something else. Certainly like the more negative ruminating thoughts, I don't know, there is a pull to those as well. Like that, even like they're like, I'm angry, or, a thought that's negative. Maybe it's, it's sort of like, well, it gets put on the other person. So like, I'm angry because that person is wrong. So then I can tell a whole story about why I'm right and that person is wrong, and get quite involved in that story.
Yeah. Well, and you're right that there's, sometimes it's nice to just get lost in whatever it is, right? But if you look closely, you'll see that most of the time when the voice in your head is drawing you in, it's not pleasant. There was a Harvard researcher who did a study with iPhones where I actually participated in this, where you'll get a text, and it will ask you, what were you just doing right now? Was your mind aware of what you were doing? And then rate your happiness. And what they found was that a wandering mind was an unhappy mind, generally, right? This is a very general thing. So you can have like something which they call a flow state, where you're just right in it. It's like there's no you, there's just the activity, right? And certainly like a really enjoyable movie could be that. Getting into your work could be that. They often talk about, sports people talk about, athletes talk about being in the flow. But quite often, when I'm sure you can think of times where, you're just pulled into this problem, basically, and you're just caught in the problem, right? And so I use the theater metaphor to illustrate the difference between being in the seat of awareness and not being in the seat of awareness, right? So I'm not saying that you I'm not saying that flow states are bad, right? But generally, when you're not aware, your mind and your emotions can take you all sorts of nasty places, right? And that's really what this course is about, is how to deal with those situations when your mind does that. So, yeah, you make a very good point, a very good point. And all of these teachings really are very, they're all very context specific, in the sense that you use these as skillful means to unblock yourself and to cultivate, joy and peace and love. So it doesn't mean that you always want to be doing this or always want to be doing that. And that's one of the things that we learn in the course, and that one of the reasons it takes practice is because it's not just like do A, B, C, and that'll take you there. Because you really have to be conscious of the experience to see where to go, right? You really have to be conscious. Is this causing me difficulty, or is this bringing me joy, right? So you do very different things in those two contexts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just being aware of whether it's bringing you discomfort or whether it's bringing you something positive is a huge part of this, right? And we're cultivating that awareness. So because awareness is the first, you can't do anything without awareness. Without awareness, you're on autopilot. You're not implementing any practice. Yeah. Oh, and we're training the mind, right? This is all about training the mind. So yeah. Well, thanks, Mark. Any other questions? Yeah, Sadie.
Is a looped thought a form of resistance and an inability to use that practice of getting in the seat of awareness if it just keeps the same thought keeps returning in not the same time, but possibly a different conversation or a different place?
Yeah. Quite often, we talk about this voice in your head, right? And the voice in your head, there's basically two kinds of thoughts. There's thoughts that we intend to happen, right? Like if I say to you now, say the word hello in your head, so try and say hello in your head. And now try and say it louder. Right? You can do that, right? You can do that. You can make the word hello appear in your mind, right? But a lot of our thinking is unintentional, right? There's just these words appearing in our mind that we did not ask for, did not create intentionally, right? And so that's what Mickey calls the voice in your head. And quite often the voice in your head, if you look closely, you'll see that it comes from a place of fear or desire. It comes from a place of not feeling whole and complete, a sense of unease or discomfort. And it's your mind trying to make you feel more comfortable. And that basically comes from the stuff we've stored, right? Because in our and I use the word natural state because I like to talk about this joy and peace and love, but none of us are in that state because we've all been, active throughout our lives, storing stuff, right? So, that's generally where the voice in your head comes from. And so this, when there's these recurring thoughts that get triggered, looping thoughts, as you said, Sadie, that's generally where they're coming from. And if you look closely, you'll notice that there's some, it may be very subtle, but some sense of unease or discomfort or unsatisfactoriness, or sometimes it's not subtle, of course, sometimes it's very strong. But on the other hand, it isn't about having no thoughts. And in the moment, you can't just you can't force a blockage to release, right? You can't force the knot to release. And in fact, what you want to do is just allow it to be, but don't engage it, right? So when we were practicing in meditation, when we said, allow the thoughts to stay in the background and become disinterested in them, that's what we do throughout the day. We notice that something happens and then our mind starts going. And the idea is to just say, I am not these thoughts. I don't need to believe these thoughts. In fact, I don't even need you can even just say to yourself, this is just garbage. This is just, because that's where it comes from. It comes from these internal knots, which are causing you suffering. So generally it's garbage. If you look closely, you see your thoughts, your voice in your head, it'll switch from one side of an argument to another. Oh, should I do that? Yeah, I should call him now. No, I better not call him now. It's too late. Oh, maybe I'll call him tomorrow. No, I'm not going to call him tomorrow. And it just goes back and forth. It's just trying to find somewhere comfortable to land, right? The other aspect of this is, because we are so focused on what happens outside in terms of our happiness, we say, okay, what do I like? And what do I don't like? What do I want to happen? And what do I not want to happen? Right? And then how do I make what I want to happen happen? How do I avoid what I don't want happening from happening? Right? And we say, mind, please figure this out. Right? This is an impossible task. Right? None of us control the world. We don't control other people. We don't control the weather. We don't control so much, right? We have very little control over what goes on outside of us. And yet we think our happiness comes from what goes on outside us. So we're constantly trying to control it. And what happens is we break our mind, right? The mind is trying to figure out problems that cannot be solved, right? Oh, if I buy this, am I going to be happy? Well, who knows, right? If I make this choice, should I take this job? Should I move over? Should I move? You have no idea whether that's going to make you happy or not. You have no idea what's going to happen, right? I don't know if any of you heard the story, that it's a Japanese Zen story about a farmer, and he's got a horse, and the horse runs away. And the villagers come by and they hear about it, and they're like, oh, we're so sorry the horse ran away. That's so terrible. And the farmer says, perhaps. And then the horse comes back a week later with a whole bunch of wild horses in tow. And now he's got all these horses. And the villagers come by and they say, oh, that's so wonderful. What good fortune, what good fortune. And he says, perhaps. And then his son is trying to train the wild horses. And, one of them knocks him down and breaks his leg. And the villagers come and they say, oh, what terror, that's such bad luck. That's terrible. And the farmer says, perhaps. And then there's a war. And so this band of warriors, they take all the young men from the town to fight in this war, but they leave his son behind because he has a broken leg. And they say, what good fortune? And he says, perhaps, right? It's because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know all the forces of physics of the world, all the, as they say in Buddhism, all the innumerable causes and conditions. You don't know. And so but your mind wants to, you keep telling your mind you have to figure this out, and you break your mind, right? And what if instead we just said, you know what, whatever happens, I'm going to do my best to just enjoy it, because I'm here on earth for a limited amount of time, and I just want to enjoy whatever I can. I want to experience as much as I can. I want to experience the good and the bad and the ugly. I want to experience it all, and I don't want to store any of it, because I want to keep in touch with my natural joy and peace and love. And so I'm going to stop trying to control everything. And I'm going to stop trying to, I'm going to let go of this idea that things should be as I want them, and instead try to just like things however they are, right? And so this is a very different approach to life. And this is what the course is all about, is how do we actually get to the point where we can actually do this? Because it's not, you can't just snap your fingers and like everything, right? And again, it's not about, when I say everything, I don't mean that you're going to like breaking your arm, right? I just mean that you're going to like a lot more of things, and B, you're not going to have this attitude that says things should be as I want them. Instead, you're going to have an attitude, the idea is to have an attitude that says, I'm not going to let anything take away my happiness. And I'm going to release, I don't want to block experience. I don't want to block life, because I don't want to store it. I want to be clear from these blockages. I want to be in touch. I want to, free up the joy and the love and the peace that are in me, so that it can flow all the time, right? And this is where this leads over a long course of time. I'm not all the way there by any stretch, but I can definitely see a difference, right? So, I mean, this is a life's work, right? This is not 6 weeks and then you're there's a term in yoga called Satchitananda, which means eternal conscious ecstasy, right? And this is our true nature, eternal conscious ecstasy. And so there are people who are in eternal conscious ecstasy, right? And this is the direction we're going. And I'm not saying we're going to get there in this, in however much time you have left, but you can certainly go in that direction, because that is what's there. And that's what all the great mystics talk about, right? This idea of, because Satchitananda is also used as a term for God, right? And it's the idea that God is this eternal conscious ecstasy that exists within each one of us, and which we can touch, and which we can uncover, if you will. Any questions or comments? The hardest part of this, by the way, is not getting sucked into the thoughts, number one, because they're so strong, they can be so attractive. And number two, not defending, because our natural urge is to defend. Whenever there's something uncomfortable, immediately we want it to go away. We want it to go away, right? Whereas the call is to open to it, to see it as an opportunity to let it in, so that you can fully experience it and not store it, or release it if it's something that you've already stored, right? And our mind is very clever at convincing us that we're letting go, when in fact what we're doing is trying to control the experience. And that's why I find like it takes practice, and it's helpful to talk about it with somebody, because somebody else can see this. Like part of the course is, where people just, talk about how they practice letting go. And when I say letting go, I mean like the relax, release thing back. How people practice letting go, and and when we take it apart into like, okay, what happened? This was going on in my mind. This was going on in my emotions. This is what I tried to do. That often will uncover that, oh, actually there was some defending there. Often quite a bit of defending, quite a bit of like wanting things to be a certain way, wanting the discomfort to go away. And so the hardest part is learning to navigate that. And so, it's like learning you're learning something new, right? It's like if you're, if you've never played the piano and you want to learn the piano, you start with the scales, right? So you start with the really little disturbances, the really little ones, right? You practice being in the seat of awareness just generally throughout the day as much as you can. And with the little teeny stuff, the stuff where you don't have to do anything about it, right? Like it's raining. Okay, it's raining. Can you just, you would want her to go on a walk, and then you look outside and it's raining, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go for a walk in the rain. And then just feel whatever you're feeling. Just relax and just, let go of the thoughts and just observe what's going on in your experience, from this seat of awareness. And so you start with the scales, because you're not going to be able to start with, some big, getting fired, or, having your, spouse leave you, or, you don't start with that stuff, right? It's like, you don't even start with something that triggers, some deep suffering, right? The sense of shame, or a sense of, like this stuff is certainly you can work with it, but you shouldn't expect that you're going to be able to just, open to it, and, first of all, know what's going on, and then open to it and stay in your seat of awareness. You start with the small stuff, right? And so that's what we practice in the course is really noticing the small stuff throughout the day. And there's various exercises we do to help us with that, as well as the meditation. And then we do a one-on-one. There's 2 one-on-one sessions in the course of 30 minutes each, where you and I will talk one-on-one, just to be able to see, like, how are you applying this in life, and where are you getting caught, basically. Where is your mind tricking you, right? Or maybe where was there, where you're unclear on like how to practice. What else? So there's the guided meditations, there's the consultations. We do various exercises. Generally, the way the classes work is we'll start with a meditation in about 15 minutes, and then we'll talk about the home practice. So talk about, how your practice has been going in terms of letting go of the small stuff, and whatever exercises or meditations there were that week. We'll talk about a couple of the chapters, just sort of go over, like you would do the reading outside of class, and then we would, I would talk about the chapters a bit, and we'd have a back and forth, any questions people have or comments or anything. And we'll do breakout groups. We didn't do a breakout group tonight, but you probably all experience. Has everyone experienced breakout groups on Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay, well, we could do one tonight. We have we don't have a lot of time, but we'll see. With breakout groups, so you can divide up into rooms of like 2 or 3 people, and then, just have a little discussion among yourselves. So it's really nice to have the opportunity to talk a little more, and talk without me around, and to just get to know each other, because the big thing also that the course provides is a structure, right, for the practice, and a community, right? The idea is that, who's ever in the course, we're in this together, and we support each other, and there's a sense of connection there. yeah, so that's about it in terms of the course. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Do we just order the book online? I don't have the book.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, it doesn't start for 2 weeks.
okay.
And the first class, we're going to go through the first 4 chapters, which takes about an hour to read. It takes about 15 minutes a chapter to read them. I find, for me, I'm not the fastest reader. I guess I'm probably not the slowest, but I'm definitely not fast. And on the course page on Luminous Ground, there's a link to, you can get the audiobook. You can download the audiobook for free from the Toronto Public Library. So you could always, like, if you didn't get the book in 2 weeks, usually you get the book faster than 2 weeks, but you can always get the audiobook from the library for the first bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the schedule, Lori, is it Tuesday nights or?
It's Tuesday nights from 7 to 9. So it's 2 hours instead of, tonight's just an hour and a half, but it's normally 2 hours. And yeah, there's the 2 hours I find is like, it goes by quickly, and it's to do the not just to do the book, but to get a good grounding in the practice. Like, it's a fairly brief period of time. But the idea is to get enough of a grounding that you can do it, or you can practice on your own. And the other thing is, there's a monthly group for past participants. So this will be the 5th time teaching it. So there's a monthly group on Sundays at 7 p.m. It was at 11 a.m. and some people couldn't make it, so we switched to 7 p.m. It may switch again, but anyway, so that's free. There's no, I want to support people in continuing the practice, because, to do this for 6 weeks and then drop it, you'll have learned something interesting, but you will not be, experiencing Satchitananda. It'll be still far. Hopefully you can learn the scales in the first 6 weeks, right? That's really the idea. And then you can keep practicing from there.
Am I able to share one thing, Lori?
Mm-hmm.
I can remember just when and Mickey talks about it in the book too, to practice in the car when you're driving. I know for myself, when I think of this path that I've been on, and the first year of being mindful, I guess, and understanding that the universe is going to happen regardless of what I want to think it's going to be. I was, I'm not going to say a terrible driver, but I'm pretty ashamed of the things that I would do behind the wheel, because I couldn't control what people would do, and they were driving too slow, or they wouldn't use their signals. I am so thankful that I can now drive and not be irritated whatsoever by anything. And it was a very conscious moment in the car where, and Mickey talks about it too, and I didn't chuckle when I read it, but I thought that's exactly what I did. Where, okay, the universe is trying to teach me something right now, so just accept what's happening. If I have to drive a little bit slow, it's teaching me some patience. It's teaching me that not everybody does what I do, and that's okay. And again, it didn't happen overnight, but I'm so thankful. And I even notice it now when I get in the car with other people and they react that way. I just stay completely calm.
Yeah.
And I just sit back, and so it works. I just wish it would work in all aspects of my life. But like you said, it's a practice. So.
Yeah. Well, it starts to work in more and more areas of your life. But, as you mentioned, like that, and as I mentioned earlier, like, this is something you practice as much as you can, right? So because you don't, it's not the idea of taking, there is some time which is called formal practice, where like you're doing sitting meditation or something where you're not doing other stuff. But the real challenge here and the call here is to, in every moment of the day, try and be in that seat of awareness. And in every moment of the day, see it as an opportunity to learn to let go, an opportunity to learn, right? See it as I only have so many moments in my life, which is limited. And so I want to experience each moment to the fullest, right? And I don't want to give away my happiness too cheaply. I really don't want to give it away at all, but I certainly don't want to give it away just, it's that attitude of, when somebody does something while you're driving that you don't like, do you really want to let that take away your happiness? Because it's not about the fact that they did this or they did that. It's about what is this doing to me, inside me? And do I want to be in anger and frustration, or do I want to be in peace and joy? Right? So, and it's keeping that intention alive, I mean, I used to bike to work back when I actually went outside to go to work. And quite often cars would do things that really bug me, and I would get frustrated. And when I started this practice, it was amazing. Somebody would do something, and I would say, "This is an opportunity to learn to let go," and the whole thing would change, right? The frustration would be gone, and it's like, thank you for giving me this opportunity to learn to let go. You know, um, and when you bring that attitude, the more of your life you bring that attitude to, the happier you are, and the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Again, when you're learning something new, it's always effortful and slightly awkward because you have to think about it a lot. But then as you practice more and it becomes more natural, then it just starts to pervade more areas of your life, right? So thanks, Tina. Anyone else?
I'm trying to walk every day. Now with COVID that we can't go to yoga, and kind of practicing to walk no matter what the weather is. So it's almost like not letting whether it's really cold, windy, raining, still dressing for it and going out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually amazed that that you can do it, that you can actually walk no matter what it's like outside. And sometimes it's more spectacular to be walking if it's really, really cold or in a storm than it is almost on a nice day. There's something about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to get out the door and to stop telling yourself, I'm going to die, it's too cold, I can't do this. Like stop and just go for it, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, because that's the voice in your head, right? That's the voice in your head telling you, no, it's too cold, I don't want to go out.
I'm going to freeze. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to dress properly, right? You don't need to listen. You don't need to listen to you can say, this is garbage.
Yes.
The most common phrase that really, it's so bad, is the phrase, I don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
You make a New Year's resolution and you say, every day I'm going to go walking. And then you look outside and you say, I don't feel like it. And then you think that you're being true to yourself by not going. You're not being true to yourself. That's not yourself. That's the voice in your head. It's garbage, right? And seeing that is a big part of this course.
Laurie, how about when you've harmed someone? or where you feel responsible, you feel responsibility for something, and you have recurring thoughts about that.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, this course is all about how to deal with the inner problem, right? So what to do about the outer problem is really beyond the scope of the course. Now that said, so the issue is that first of all, you're feeling, guilt and maybe shame and remorse and, whatever you're feeling. So the first thing is to deal with that, right? And just let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel it, right? Because it's unpleasant, right? Let yourself feel it. And the idea is that, because you've obviously stored it, right? And the past in particular, like you can't change the past, obviously, right? No matter how hard you try, you are not going to be able to change the past. So first of all, just let yourself experience, whatever it is, the shame, the remorse, the guilt, let yourself experience that to the depths of your being, right? So that you can release this samskara. And then you can deal with the outer, right? So maybe the outer, maybe you're going to apologize to the person, maybe you're going to give them a present, maybe you can't do that, maybe you're going to do some sort of, charity work. I know, like, I studied a lot with Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Vietnamese Zen master, and he went all over the world to try and stop the war in Vietnam. And he tells of this soldier, an American soldier, who made these poison sandwiches and put them out on the road. And these kids came by and they ate the poison sandwich and they all died. So he killed all these kids. And then after the war, he just could not live with himself because of this, right? And so, and he couldn't do anything for the kids. They were dead, right? So Ty said, why don't you do some work like helping kids or helping to end war, like do something like that, right? So again, that's beyond the scope of this course, but I mean, there's various things you can do on the outside, but the first thing to do is to deal with the internal knot that is there. And the way to deal with it is when it comes up, feel it, let yourself feel it completely, relax. Don't try and make it go away. Don't try and stop it. Don't try and fix the outer problem. Your mind will go to, what am I going to do about this outside? Let go of that, release that, and just allow yourself to fully experience the crap, right? The crap. And, you can think of it as like imagine you have a thorn in your arm and it's touching a nerve, and the thorn, you don't want to touch the thorn because it's so painful when you touch the thorn, right? And so you can build all sorts of devices so that the thorn never gets touched, right? But these devices get more and more intricate, and at some point you can only go through certain doors, and you have to have a special bed and special clothing, right? And but nothing ever touches the thorn. And you say, you know what? The thorn is not a problem for me. And my response is, the thorn is running your life. You are thinking about it all the time. So pull the thorn out, right? Stop trying to protect the thorn, pull it out, right? And that's the analogy in terms of, the stuff that we've stored inside. Let yourself experience it, because that's the only way that you're going to transform it inside.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question around what Elsa just asked?
Yeah, sure.
So I understand what you're saying. When you feel it, relax into it and just let it go through you. Feel it.
Mm-hmm.
What if you can't? What if you're in the middle of work and all of a sudden you have this shame attack or guilt attack or this utter sadness comes up and you have to suppress it?
Well, you don't have to suppress it. You can just just take a few moments to allow yourself to feel it, to stop, to notice the resistance and drop the resistance to the extent you can. You can't always drop the resistance, right? Often there's fear there. You can't just drop, like, this takes a lot of practice, and this is why you have to start with the small stuff.
Mhm.
But the idea is just to be able to, practice, relax, release, lean back for even just a few breaths, and then get on with your day, right? And often you can't get on with your day. I don't know if anybody's had the experience I've had, of like some big thing, some thought comes in your mind, a big trigger, and you're trying to read a book, and like I'll let it go, and then I'll go back to the book, but then the thoughts come back, and then I notice that I just, I wasn't reading, nothing was coming in, right? Sometimes sometimes you can't work because the disturbance is so big, right? So, but the point is to just do your best to relax and allow yourself to experience whatever's going on. It doesn't mean you have to stop doing what you're doing, right? In fact, often what it is, often if the thing is that bad, it will prevent you from doing what you're doing. If you're doing thinking work, you're not going to be able to do it, right? If you have a big, huge disturbance. So, but you can just keep, keep releasing the thoughts, going back to the work, and then the thoughts come back again, you release again, relax again, come back to the work, and you just do this. I've had like it. Maybe that'll go on for half an hour. I've had that, and then at some point it does release. At some point, but you can never tell when it's going to release. You can never, and so there's often resistance because you want a certain thing to happen, and so that's kind of a derivative resistance, right? There's often when you're practicing, there's the initial thing that you're resisting, but then you're trying to make a certain thing happen, and that's resistance, and then you're trying to, and it can sort of work its way from there. So yeah, so thanks Tinette. So it's 8:30, so I don't want to keep people past the time. So I thank you for coming, and I'll if it's okay, I'll send a link to the course, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if anybody has any questions now, if you want to stay, feel free to stay, and I'll stay as long as you want. And that's it. So thank you, everyone. Very much appreciate your presence tonight.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
And Jerry,
Thank
nice
you.
to see your son there.
Yeah.
I'll meet him someday.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.